if you go to stadia.com right now, you can sign up for Google Stadia free for 2 months. And then from then on, it'll be $9.99 or whatever, $10 a month. This announcement comes in the wake of all the other stuff that's been going on. And this, I believe, keep in mind, even just in the short period of time that I've been doing this channel again, I am very confident that Google Stadia is taking this year and this whole opportunity to pile drive Stadia into people's homes. And this is the beginning of that. You just need the app. You can play on whatever, and you can use whatever controller you want. You don't need the Stadia controller, although you can still get the Founders Pack or whatever, but you can use whatever controller you want. You can use the app. You can use Stadia for free. And keep in mind, at the moment, Stadia only has about 9 games, including, I think they've got Destiny 2, Grid. They have Thumper, which is cool. The most interesting game, in my opinion, being that Guilt, that exclusive that they had. A little indie game that's cool. But this announcement is not happening in a vacuum, okay? Let's remember that in January, Google announced that Stadia was going to be getting 10 timed exclusives this year. Okay, they were getting 10 games this year, 2020. This was back in January. This was January 16th. Okay, so this is before things really kicked off. 10 exclusives. Okay, and I don't know if there's any rumors floating around about what those might be. I know that they're also developing their own games. 10 games just in 2020 that are going to come out exclusive for Stadia and then come to other platforms later on. Although keep in mind, if these are PS5 or Xbox Series X games, that remains to be seen, even though those are coming along. Apparently, Sony, and it seems like their manufacturers are really, really committed to having those come out this year. Even so, 1 year of exclusivity on Stadia during what might be somewhat of a frantic launch of the other consoles seems like a good opportunity for Google. And also, a couple weeks ago, they launched the Makers program, where Stadia specifically started reaching out to established indie developers to come and make games on the Stadia platform, right? Much in the same way that Guilt was. They're reaching out with, I don't know the specifics of these deals, but, presumably they're interested in working with you if you're, actually a good example would be Supergiant, right? Supergiant obviously hasn't announced anything. I'm not trying to make that. I'm not trying to act. But if you remember, Bastion was the first. I think it was the first game that was launched in like the Google Chrome store. That they actually used Bastion as kind of this test case early on. What was that? 2010 or something. To be a game that you could play in a browser window. To be like there was like I think like an HTML5 version of Bastion, and it was like the launch of the service forever ago. Supergiant is probably the kind of company that they're reaching out to with a deal like this, right? They're not going to get those ones that Epic got, but, it remains to be seen. And now Stadia is free for a couple months. So people can try it for themselves. And the feedback that people keep reporting is that the service works great. They're apparently working on downgrading it, like for the average person right now, from 4K to 1080, which makes sense. I mean, YouTube and Netflix, all the different streaming services are doing things like that, given the uptick in usage. And Stadia, at the end of the day, like from a technical standpoint, is just HD video streaming as far as the browser is concerned. And so, yeah, okay, they're whatever. That's kind of a separate issue. Maybe not most, but many people do all their gaming at 1080p. Anyway, they're not doing 4K gaming regardless, right? So, whatever. Supposedly the service works really well. The only problem is that it has no games. Well, it has 9 games that people already own, right? What they need are the new hotness. They need games that people really want to play. They need, well, who knows what they need? I mean, the argument could be that they need their own version of Uncharted or Halo. But, I think at this point they'd take their own version of Braid or The Witness, right? Their own version of Limbo. Their own version of Journey. Why not? And I think, mark my words, I think very soon we're going to start to get more details. Probably prior, it's only April. We're not even close. We're not even close to when E3 would have happened. And so, it's only going to get freakier from here. Now, typically in these videos, if you've noticed, I've only done one story at a time, right? Because I think that makes sense. But here's a little addendum story, okay? Because another announcement showed up today, or I'm recording this the morning that you're watching it, right? I've recorded it. It'll be going up in a few hours. I've been recording these typically kind of around midnight. So Microsoft announced basically that they're going to start, they've opened registration for their project xCloud, their streaming service, their competitor for Stadia. And they've been much more conservative about rolling it out, probably because they got a bit spooked seeing the negative response to Stadia, which I think is a bit overblown. I think that people are being a little bit naive about Google's capacity to run a service like this, with how intensely they're criticizing Stadia. But Microsoft has opened up preview countries. They're mostly in Western Europe, by the looks of it. Belgium, Finland, the Netherlands, Sweden, Ireland. The France. A bunch of them. I don't see the UK in there. But Western Europe, and these are registrations for Android customers, which is interesting. I guess who else is it going to be? And this is an opportunity to register so that when a spot comes up in the future, you'll be able to try Microsoft's streaming service, their answer to Stadia, and in some ways their answer to PlayStation Now, right? Which a couple friends of mine were playing PlayStation Now and apparently having a grand old time with it. Supposedly, Microsoft actually might have been planning more of a serious launch for about this time. And they say that just given the whole, self-isolating thing, given the nature of internet bandwidth right now, they're holding off. Like, they don't want to launch this service right now. Maybe. I suspect that it's more a response to the way that Stadia was received initially. But I think it's interesting that they decided to come up with this announcement right now. They're saying, hey, everyone, go register for xCloud. Right at the same time that Google announces that you can access Stadia for free. Interesting timing. I get the sense, as I said a few days ago, I get the sense that the wagons are beginning to circle. We're going to see not only Microsoft, because keep in mind, this service that Microsoft is doing might be a bit of a preview for what PlayStation Now ends up becoming in the future, if Sony is going to use Microsoft's infrastructure for all their online stuff, as they announced a few years ago. But we're starting to see a pretty big tectonic shift in the entire industry, and it's been happening since last year, and it's about to kick into high gear. See you tomorrow.